one new gold stock making big headlines since its start last April, acquiring gold for $5 to $10 per ounce in the ground, which is dramatically lower than the $50 to $100 per ounce in the ground other companies have been paying. To learn more about what hard asset investors are calling a mineral bank, visit futuremoneytrends.com/investright. Greetings and thank you for joining us at futuremoneytrends.com. I'm here with Mark Leibovit. He's the chief strategist for VRTrader.com. He's been trading the markets for 35 years, and he's been ranked as one of the top market timers for the Dow, gold, bonds. He's made some of the great calls of 2008 and 2009 as well. And I've watched him over the years. I actually first met him at a Casey conference. He's always very honest. He is a trader, so he's not married to any of his calls today. However, I did want to get his opinion and a peek into 2016. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Daniel. It's a pleasure being with you, and thanks for re-inviting me. It's been a few years. I missed that Casey conference.
Well, hey, let's just start off with 2016, looking at the Dow Jones, the S&P 500. Looking at your data where you track the volume, what are some of the signals pointing to for 2016?
All right, well, yeah, it's a little early. Part of the things that I look at, one of the things I look at, I was very influenced many years ago from my old friend Yale Hirsch, who, as you may recall, wrote the Stock Trader's Almanac. Actually, that was the first book that I ever read or document I ever read on the stock market, and this is going way back when I was in college. And, if you know, it covers, cyclical tendencies during the year, what stocks do on Mondays or Tuesdays or Thursdays. It's just a fun book. If you don't have it or your readers don't have it, I don't get any commission for it, but I'm very friendly with Yale and his son for over the years, and that influenced a lot of the forecasts. A part and parcel to that is one of the reasons I'm bringing it up is because the January barometer, which everybody, officially scoffs at, is still one of my main indicators. And if you recall, January said it would be a negative year for 2015, and they were poo-pooing it, and indeed that's the way it's playing out, even though it's not dramatically negative for the S&P and the Dow. If you look at what happened with so many individual stocks, I mean, most of the market, in my opinion, including the Russell, the Dow, particularly the Dow Transports, have been in a bear market through 2015. I think that January barometer was right on track in terms of, making money. Yeah, sure, the index has held up a little bit, but most stocks really didn't do that well. And as you know, some really got killed this year. If you were holding FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, I guess you did okay, relatively speaking, but for most of the market, it wasn't the case. So I'm really sort of watching how the market acts here in January. The first 5 days are an early warning sign, according to Yale's original work, and the end of the month as compared to December is important as well. So that's one of the main things I'm going to be looking ahead at. But looking back at what I see up to this point, I'm in the bear camp. I see a possibility, a good possibility, we could retest or take out the August lows in that 15,400 area in the Dow. That's my current reading, and it's obviously if the barometer changes or something dramatic changes, that's sort of where I'm at. Now, it doesn't mean the whole year has to be bearish. Maybe we just have a big sell-off in the first half or some correction, and then as we get to the election, maybe things start to change. And I think a lot of it is politically oriented. How is this going to go with Donald Trump versus Hillary and all these kind of things? And is there really going to be that type of confrontation? And how will the market react to it? I'm sure that's going to have a big impact as well. So that's got to be factored in. And so, that's sort of the basic view. I'm bullish on bonds. I think the Fed's still going to be accommodative. I think the bond market will be seeking some safety because of my perception that the stocks may still underperform. Maybe that'll change after mid-year. We'll have to see. And, the world is not in a good state, and I know it drives money into the U.S., which might be ultimately a big positive for us going forward. And I should say, big picture, Daniel, I'm not a super bear. I mean, I'm just sort of reflecting what I see month to month or year to year. It seems to me, and I've written about this, I'm sure you've seen in my letter, I'm not a conspiracist, but I know the markets are rigged. They have been rigged. We've got negative interest rates in Europe. We have a Fed that is unprecedented in the way it's conducted itself here. We know the currency market is rigged, the gold market is rigged, we know the stock market is rigged. There's a plunge protection team, the working group of financial markets out there. These things aren't talked about daily on CNBC, but the markets are worldwide. When the Fed doesn't do something, what happens? Japan suddenly starts to devalue, or China starts to manipulate its stocks openly, buying and selling in the open market, or adjusting their currency downwards. We have a currency war going on worldwide. So all these things, sort of say, well, gee, maybe money will flow ultimately more into the U.S., and maybe we will have ultimately a much higher stock market. And I think the powers that be are really saying that they really can't afford to have, another 2008-9 scenario. But we'll just have to wait and see if that unfolds. And that would say to me, I guess on a longer-term basis, several years, or maybe not that long, the Dow should ultimately still move higher, just because that seems to be the only place for money. But I want to time it a little bit better than that. So I'm thinking if my thinking is correct, sometime this year there'll be another shakeout, there'll be another buying opportunity, and we'll have to wait for the technical confirmation. So in a long-winded response, Daniel, that's sort of where I'm at.
Would you be a buyer of gold and silver here at these prices? They seem to be showing some weakness. However, the mining shares, which have been a leading indicator, they haven't made another low since July, which is, now we're 6 months into this.
Well, you tapped a very sore spot with me with the gold market, because I'm obviously disappointed considering the state of the world, how poorly it's acted. And I think a lot of it, again, people accuse me of being a conspiracist, but I'm very familiar with the work of GATA, the Gold Action Trust Association, and the work they've done, GATA.org. If your listeners want to check them out, I'm sure you're familiar with them. And there's more than anecdotal evidence that we've got suppressed gold market worldwide, and it's to the benefit of the powers that be that gold isn't running away because it discredits government policy. That said, I do think it's a buy. I think it's cheap. I think it's something you got to own. I honestly, I've been buying gold since the early 1990s at all prices, from $300-400 all the way up to $1,300-1,400. I didn't sell at $1,900, which I guess in hindsight I should have, but I feel ultimately it's going a lot higher, and I keep the coins in the vault. And I don't have a strong buy signal here, but it does look to me that 1040 area was an important low. So let's see if that holds, and I guess the action in the first quarter will be important. But I always nibble a little bit to answer your question. I have some extra money. I buy a couple coins. I add to the position. I think that the 1,000 level is a very important level for it. And I know the bears are telling us we go to 700-800, and to me that would even be a better buy. But obviously, as a trader, that's not the greatest decision. So I'm long, coins and physical metal, which I appreciate your comment about the shares leading way up, and hopefully that is the case. And I'm also buying a little silver, but I recognize that I might have to buy it at cheaper prices if I'm wrong. So I'm positive because it's a depressed market, and the sentiment is so strongly against it, but we are fighting government intervention. So at some point, I don't know if that's going to change or the markets are going to overcome that, but I'm a bull, and hopefully I don't have egg on my face a year from now and gold's at 800.
For the average guy who wants to own some physical precious metals or mining shares, do you have any hedges they could possibly do? Perhaps, maybe short China with an ETF and hold your resource stocks, and you kind of have that hedge where, look, if commodities implode, you're shorting China, but at the same point in time, if they rebound, you've still got these resource stocks, which, in the junior market on the TSX Venture, we're talking about an exchange that's down 85%, and that's in Canadian dollars.
Does it have to be securities? Can it just be the physical commodity, or something like Central Fund of Canada that holds the physical commodity? Is that sort of where you were going?
Yeah, no, what would be a good hedge for people who want to own the precious metals for the long term, or get into the resource sector where it's been beaten down, but we don't know if we're at the bottom?
Well, there's one particular stock that I like. I've traded over the years, and I'm trading it, though I'd like to have a huge position if I was convinced it was bottom. You may be familiar with it. It's the Gabelli Natural Resource Closed-End Fund, ticker symbol GGN. So this was trading like $32 a share back 2007-8 area, I believe, maybe a year or two before that. It's trading now around $4. Basically, they sell call options against natural resource companies, and they've been generating some pretty good yields. I think the current yield is, if I'm not mistaken, around 12%. So it's a nice yielding stock. Of course, if the metals go lower, this can drop from $4 to $3 or something. But it's something that does have a yield. It isn't dependent on the company's fortunes. It's dependent on the option premiums on the various resource stocks. And the Gabelli Group is very good at generating that cash flow, and they have over the years. And the yield, even when the stock was trading in the 30s, I think it was only maybe 6% or 5% back then. And because of the depressed prices, it's gone up. But the dividend seems to be pretty secure. They've adjusted it once in a while. But this is one I would look at. I mean, if you want to nibble at it here, that's fine. I'm not 100% convinced it's turned, but it's awfully attractive because, when I say natural resource, they're in crude oil stocks as well as gold and silver, all kinds of natural resource companies, and they're very good about generating that cash flow. So this is one, I don't know if it's a hedge, but with that dividend yield, that sort of helps me a little bit,
What's your favorite sector right now?
You're going to think I'm off the wall, but actually the one that I've been trading and very active in is the cannabis sector. There's actually about, I don't know if you know this or not, there's about 200 publicly traded, mostly penny marijuana and cannabis stocks, and they've all been in the dumper. And actually, a big question I'm asked all the time is, since it's federally illegal on the Schedule 1, how can we have a national securities trading in an illegal, supposedly illegal commodity? Of course, many of these they're penny stocks. There are a couple bigger names that I'm partial to, like Insys Therapeutics, INSY. It's about $30 a share. GW Pharmaceuticals, about $68 a share. These are some bigger names, but this is a big trend. And despite the political gives and takes, in terms of the voting, we have 20 states that have approved marijuana. This is a growth industry. I've actually attended a couple of the marijuana conventions just to see what was going on. In fact, I was at one just within the last few weeks in Las Vegas, and just see thousands of people show up, and you see it's an industry. It's just not people smoking marijuana. You walk in there, you see all the equipment manufacturers, the lighting, the growing equipment, the physical structures where the plants are grown. I mean, you see these giant cubicles that have been engineered, all kinds of goods and services related to it. It's an industry. I know it's not the top of everybody's list, but it's a favorite of mine, and I've been successful trading it. It's mostly the bigger names, and I think that there's a real change. In fact, the DEA just came out within the last few days, loosening up the standards for CBD, which is a cannabinoid portion of marijuana that doesn't make you high. The THC components would make you high. So the CBDs are used for a lot of oils and creams, but the department came out with that lower requirement, so a couple of stocks bounced. But if that Schedule 1 ever comes off and Obama issues some executive order or something happens, you're going to see this group explode. And there's about 200 names, and I'm talking, returns of, thousands of percentage points in some of these stocks if that occurs. So you have to really keep your eye on it. And I actually produced a letter called the Vice Letter, which I created last year. And instead of calling it the Cannabis Letter, it's one of the many letters that we put out. But we focus on that group. And some of these little stocks, I've traded them in the last year or so. I mean, little penny stocks that go from a penny to 30 cents. And the other thing to keep in mind too is the Canadian market is really a legitimate market up there. You got the government, which has approved nationally medical marijuana through the entire country, and Trudeau just got elected as premier, or as a prime minister, I'm not quite sure, and he already is advocating full legalization of recreational marijuana all through Canada. So there's a bunch of Canadian shares, one in particular called Canopy, TWMJF, I think is a symbol. It's around $2, but they're supposed to have about 50% of the Canadian market. So that's something to keep an eye on too. And there's a bunch of others that are Canadian related. So I know it sounds a little left field, but I'm always looking for stuff where there's growth and action and a little disbelief. But if you're actually out there seeing what's going on and the money, when I've been at some of these conventions, I see Wall Street people there, just not small individuals. I see big firms. I'm not going to mention names, writing big checks to buy into these companies, because you know what's going to happen when the legalization does come. Philip Morris is going to be in there, and the big players, and it's going to be a huge play for stock traders as well as for the individuals who are already in that sector. So if I had to pick one thing out, I trade everything, but this is really an interesting area. Very few people talk about it, and I've been somewhat successful at it up to this point, and I'm trying to keep my foot in the door.
You know what's nice about that trade is that it is one of those things where it's very easy to understand the trade. It's an understandable industry, and then you can also see that it's the Wild West. You've got a whole vast upside of currently 48 states right now. Mark,
they talked to us about gold and silver 10 years ago, Daniel. In 1999, 2000, they thought we were crazy to be buying gold stocks or buying gold, when it turned up and nobody believed what it did. Same thing in this group. It's always disbelief in something new and different. So anyway, that's just my thought, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. But
no, perfect, sir. Mark Leibovit, Chief Market Strategist for VRTrader.com. He has several newsletters, so if you want to subscribe, they have specific ones. It's definitely the place to go for traders. Like I said in his introductory, you can go to his website. You can see that he's been ranked as one of the top market timers over the years for several different specific industries. But this is a guy who has a system that I believe you created, correct, sir?
It's a volume reversal. It's actually a technical indicator. It's one piece of the puzzle. It's like I talk about Yale Hirsch and the January Brahma. It's one of the pieces I created when I was a floor trader years ago, volume reversal, and it's a tool that I use. And if you go to like Metastock or eSignal, even TradeStation now, at least temporarily, I think it's there. You can actually buy the indicator and add it to your platform and see the little volume changes that I look for. And this is important if you are shorter term trading. For example, they had a positive VR in Amazon yesterday on the 28th of December, and the stock's up like 15 points today, which I guess is nothing for the price of the stock, but that's the kind of thing I look for. The volume came in yesterday. It's a volume reversal, and it gives me the trigger as a trader to jump in, and then you have to decide, are you in it for a day or two or longer? But I tend to be more of a 2-3 day trader for these big name stocks, since that's how I was really trained when I was on the floor. And before we close, Dan, I don't know if you think if it's appropriate or not, but I did want to mention I do host my own weekly radio show now, so I don't know if you're interested in that.
Yeah, no, and just real quickly again, so you've got 35 years experience, used to even be a market maker. So look, guys, if you're going to short-term trade, which I know a lot of people want to do and try to do, go to Mark's website. He knows what he's doing, and he's there to help. Now, Mark, tell us about.
I'm a survivor.
Tell us about your radio show. So, is it on iTunes?
It's we haven't got it on the podcast yet. We were 6 months up. It's called Wall Street Raw, and I came up with that. Actually, my wife came up with that name, and it's because I try to do things a little differently, and I try to do the opposite of CNBC in the sense that I try to, question things that are happening. Just don't accept everything as, real truth, particularly those economic numbers, which I think are falsehoods. But that's just me, knowing what the government's doing out there. But in any event, it's Wall Street Raw. It's on the Genesis Communication Network, GCNlive.com, George Charlie Nancy Live.com. It's Saturday mornings, 10 o'clock Eastern. It's just a weekly show, and we'll see how it grows over time. I used to have a show back in the 90s, and I lost a sponsor, and we dropped the show way back, which was something I shouldn't have done, but this is fun for me, and I get to interview a lot of interesting people, and it just keeps you on your tippy toes, so I enjoy the show very much. So I would check in Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, if you do want to hear it, and it's archived at GCN if you missed the show.
Sure. Well, hey, best of luck to you on your show. Mark Leibovit of VRTrader.com. Thanks, Mark, again, for taking the time with us to be on the show.
Thanks for having me. Take care.